You are looking live in Gaza this morning as the ground offensive there for Israel, their plans continue to move forward. They're pushing for more calls for more than 1 million residents to evacuate from northern Gaza, wanting them to head south as they renew their vow to counter the Hamas attacks with even greater force. Troops remain massed on the Gaza border as Israel's ground invasion again appears imminent. Joining me now, Lieutenant Colonel Peter Lerner, a spokesperson for the Israel Defense Forces. Colonel, we appreciate your time this morning. Thank you for making time for us. I want to read something from the president that he has put out on social media, our President Biden. He says, we must not lose sight of the fact that the overwhelming majority of Palestinians had nothing to do with Hamas's appalling attacks and are suffering as a result of them. How are you all managing? You've made very clear calls for people to leave, to move away from potential hotspots and targets. How are you managing all of that with plans for your further ground offensive?
Good morning, Shannon. Indeed, the IDF operations are ongoing, and part of those operations are our call for people to evacuate from the north of the Gaza Strip. It's a measure in order to safeguard human life, and we are seeing a huge movement of people from north to south. And that's despite the fact that Hamas tried to prevent it, both physically and in messages. So the operations are actually targeted, as we can see over the last 9 days now. We're in the midst of day 9 here in Israel since the October 7th massacre in destroying Hamas's capability to ever use the Gaza Strip as a staging ground against us. We are targeting their leaders, we're targeting their terrorists, and yes, we are determined to defeat them. And I would say we didn't ask for this war, but we are going to win it.
What about the ongoing issue of hostages who are being held in some of these areas? Hamas makes reports that we can't in any way verify or trust. It's just coming from them that there are hostages being killed by the Israeli airstrikes and other incursions. Can you tell us anything about efforts to make sure those people are returned home?
Well, yeah, I agree. We would need to be very, very cautious in listening to anything a organization that is willing to butcher babies in their bedrooms has to say. Of course, it's an emotional manipulation tried to exert more pressure on Israel as we mount up the pressure on them. The 120 or so hostages need to be taken care of by Hamas. They are responsible for their well-being. They need to release them immediately. And while I would like to delve into more details, it's obviously it is a very sensitive issue, and we need to respect the efforts that are ongoing in order to try and bring them home. So I guess while I know there's a lot of curiosity about what is actually going on, I think we need to leave it there and leave this type of discussion for those that are working to bring them home.
Mm-hmm. Our Trey Yanks, who is there reporting in southern Israel today, showed us that it was stormy in many areas and talked about the worries about how that may impact plans and operations. Has that been a complication for you today, or would you say plans are proceeding as you have planned them to be?
Yeah, the operation is ongoing. We are destroying Hamas's capabilities, and I would say we're also, we're focusing on the special forces of Hamas, the Nukhba force. Just last night, we were able to identify and target and kill Bilal al-Qidra, who was the commander of the Khan Yunis special forces, the commando unit of Hamas down south, who was actually responsible and participated in infiltrating and penetrating the Nirim kibbutz. So we're dealing strikes directly against those that were involved, but also against the entire institution of Hamas that has been utilized and abused, from Yahya Sinwar, who is the mastermind of the massacre, the prime minister of Hamas, and he has subordinated the entire institutions of the government of Gaza to serve terrorism. So we are striking on across the spectrum of the institutions of Hamas, from the individuals, from their terrorist activities. We targeted drones that had explosive devices that were set up on the rooftops of houses. Who does that if they're not willing or interested in sacrificing the people that are actually living in those houses? So yeah, the mission is ongoing. I would say that when we're looking forward now, we're amassing a huge amount of force on the battleground in the surrounding areas of the Gaza Strip. They are combined forces, special forces, infantry, artillery, the tanks, all different types of units that are preparing for a ground mobilization if the government so instructs. Okay. And we need to be prepared for that eventuality. We know how to operate in all types of weather and conditions, and we will continue until Hamas is defeated.
Well, Colonel, we know that your prime minister has warned the people, as you all have, that this may be a long and difficult fight. So thank you for making time for us in the midst of that, Colonel. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Good morning, Shannon.